welcome everybody. Recording in progress. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Christy, if you could call the roll, and John Mallow stepped out in the hallway, he is here.
Okay. Jeff Swansea.
Here.
Bobby Kowski.
Present.
Jackie Marsh. Here. John Mallow is present but not in the room. And Jim Thompson.
Chief, any amendments to the agenda?
Nope.
Words, presentations? That will take us to public comment. So at this point, I'll open up for public comment. Any in the audience? Welcome, everybody. Thanks for being here. Christy, how about?
I don't have any raised hands on me.
Okay, that will take us to our consent agenda. Is there anything anybody'd like to have pulled from it?
No, sir.
If not, I'll take a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Second.
Further conversation? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, that will take us to our regular agenda, and there's not much here. Review briefing papers and correspondence. Chief, you're up to bat.
Yep, and I'll apologize up front to Emily for coming all this way.
It's all good.
Probably should have given you advance notice that it is going to be brief. We do have a couple items to share with you. I know Chief Smith will share this in his operations, but just a little bit of coverage from the Reporter Herald on a couple of incidents that we had. Basically LFRA in the news, so I'll let him come back to that. Couple items in regards to Unification Steering Committee. So we did have our first Unification Steering Committee with the new city manager. Perfect timing. So we are moving forward. I thought it was a great discussion. There are a number of items that we put forth. The objective at this point is to move it to the finance group. So that's kind of a subgroup of the Unification Steering Committee. We will start devising kind of a plan from a financial perspective, and then that will transition over to the legal side to make a determination if we can legally pursue what we're advocating. So there are a number of plans that are out there, some of which we still kind of have to keep within that group before we go public with them. Because there's a lot of conversations that have to occur. But Chairman, I'm not sure if you want to share anything on it. I thought the meeting went very well. And Jim, I'll ask you if you have anything to share on that as well, on the Unification Steering Committee.
Go ahead, Jim.
Sorry. I did my best.
Well, thank you. I thought it went well. I think it was our first opportunity to come together again. Haven't met in a long time. So for me, it was understanding some of the history and where we were at and why we were where we were and where we need to move forward in the future. But look forward to those future discussions and finding a good spot for all of us to serve the community and the area around us. So appreciate it.
I concur. I'm very optimistic about everything. I had a chance to talk with Director Bukowski earlier and told him we're able to clarify a few things, and all makes much more sense what we're trying to do. And it's good to have our new city manager there and involved, and looking forward to moving forward.
My turn, huh? I'm just good to be back in the truck.
Well, we appreciate everybody's participation. Kind of the rule moving forward is that we'll keep it tight within the group until we make a definitive decision to take it back to the governing bodies. So that's the objective, is we keep everything in-house. But a lot of good discussions, and to your point, this is a win-win. What we're advocating is not to build the LFRA at the demise of the community. So we're working hand in hand in this, and feel very comfortable we can get to the finish line. So thanks for everybody's participation.
Chief, could I ask you one question? On the financial meeting, could I respectfully request that We have Ben from the rural side. I don't know if he's included. I was just wondering to make sure. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and that still would include you.
Right. I'm saying maybe. I didn't know if he was there last time.
Yeah, and actually, that brings up a good point. We got to be very careful. I mean, especially with council, and the two of you sitting on the board, we got to be very careful because it becomes a public meeting. So what we're doing is primary and basically the secondary person. You can't both be there because that creates quorums. So we have to be representative of that city finance as well as rural as well. So.
Thank you.
Okay, inclusion election. So we have worked from the rural board perspective. The inclusion elections are moving on track, looking at August 26th. So that's bringing in basically 3 significant chunks of additional coverage area to our community. We are pursuing a 4th area called Fletcher Hill. We held a town hall last Saturday. Interestingly enough, everybody that attended the town hall, and it was well attended, a lot of good spirit. Unfortunately, none of them were in that area. And the reason I joke about it, I mean, this is the serious nature or the seriousness of where we are. These people are an hour and a half from Station 7. And they want to be included in our response area. Obviously, we'd love to help them, but we got to be realistic. And why are they so adamant? Because it's about insurance and the ability to get any form of coverage. So we could not facilitate that. There's a limit, and I think we're at that. And Chief Smith and Mickey from the rural's legal side have done a fantastic job in prepping us for that. So the information will be going out to the voters. Once we get the firm list from the county, the information will start going out there. We will hold a public hearing at the rural meeting. So we could very well have some people who may be a little frustrated with it because it is an imposed tax on them. But we just need to be prepared. I think we, as the LFRA, have done everything that we could in regards to educating them. And we have a full-fledged informational PowerPoint that we can share with them to further educate them if necessary. I don't sense that we're going to feel any pushback, but I just want to share that with the board in general.
Excuse me, where's Fletcher Hill?
It's outside of Masonville as you go kind of 27 towards like Buckhorn, 44H. So that big hill, that's the end of our district.
Gotcha. Okay.
We just want to go a little bit beyond it.
Thanks.
And again, that's working in conjunction with Risk Canyon. So this is not a territorial struggle. This is literally us working with another fire department. The 2026 impact fees. So I think last month, the month before, we came to you with revised impact fees for 2025. You adopted those. Bear in mind, that was from a previous BBC study. So that was a 2021 study that we adopted the top end of those fees. We are now going out for a new impact fee study for 2026. So we met with BBC, and they are going to basically submit to us a revised report for adoption for 2026. A couple of things from the city manager, Mayor Pro Tem's perspective. We are focusing on affordable housing. So where we are currently, it's a residence is this, regardless, whether it's a 1,200 square foot residence or a 5,000 square foot residence, you're paying the same. So one of the things that Chief Dan has worked with them is really talked about affordable housing and the importance that we don't drive people from our community. So we will have multiple categories. They did this in Berthoud. They had 10 categories. We may not go to that extreme, but finding some sort of sweet spot in there, there's really, to me, and I think the Chief Dan, we really don't care if it's 10. It's just, why would you have so many? So breaking it down by the typical square footage measurements is what we're advocating. I'll also give Chief Dan credit. One of the things that we want to advocate for is to some of these developers and people that are building houses themselves is if you put sprinklers in your home, residential sprinklers, we want to incentivize that. Now, we won't waive all the fees, but what we would advocate is some sort of fee adjustment or reduction if you sprinkler your home. And the reason we're not gonna waive all the fees is because impact fees are about the total response. It's not simply about a fire response. We still have EMS responsibilities and so forth. So we want to see how that comes back. We shared that with the consultant. He was encouraged by that. So just bear in mind, we're taking that into consideration, trying to advocate for residential sprinklers. At the same time, taking into consideration the importance of affordable housing. So.
You're reaching out to builders and stuff.
No, the way this works is they don't reach out to builders. They just basically take what we have currently, okay? If we were to replace everything that we currently have, such as fire stations, apparatus and so forth, this is the figure. So then you start basically creating an impact fee chart from there. So we'll do a formal presentation for you on that, but I just wanted to highlight those two things that we are being considered on both sides of the house. Next thing, and I appreciate Chief Dan being here. I want to call out the Community Safety Division and some of the recent activity they've done. And Jim, I want to give you credit for your position on this in regards to the highway motel. That certainly is a concern of ours, and I would say there are many of those across our community. I think you've been probably inundated with some of that. This is a big deal for our firefighters, our inspectors, and our people that are exposed on a regular basis. There's a great deal of risk, not only for the residents, but also our personnel. But the important factor for me is we have 2 kids living in that environment. And while they are displaced momentarily, I think we made an important step in improving the safety of our community and looking out for not only those 2 kids, but the rest of the folks that were displaced. We have not done that in the past, and there are a lot of properties that are frustrating. And I know everybody's concerned about displacing people. I respect that 100%. But we have to be considerate of some of the folks that are being exposed, the adjacent neighbors, as well as the firefighters who are responding. So I appreciate the efforts that we put forth in working with all the collective departments to make that happen. So there are some other properties that are coming forth that we would love to address and hopefully do it in a progressive manner. So. Did you have something?
No.
Okay, so the back end of that, I also wanted to share that in Johnstown, we had a developer in Johnstown that really was treating our staff totally inappropriately, aggressive in all forms and fashion, to the point that we had to have Chief Ward accompany part of our staff going out there. I just want to say that our staff handled it exceptionally well, professional. We got it over the hump. The unfortunate thing, it wasn't developed to our standards. Chief Dan held her ground. I backed her 100%, as did Chief Ward. And I think we did the right thing, but we met a compromise. It's in Johnstown. The city town manager there was informed that it's not to our standard. But on their side of the house, they basically gave the waiver and we kind of went along with that. But we have put them on notice that we are not going to support that moving forward. So you had asked a couple of months ago, do we get contentious emails, or do I get contentious emails? Most notably, I get a lot of compliments on the staff, but we do get contentious emails, this being one of them. And we have people that are frustrated with our staff, but this is the enforcement side, doing the right thing for the right reasons. But I think we handled it with professionalism and dignity. So. Last couple items for me, community grants, Pinewood Road Association. This is the value of being tied into LFRA. These 2 groups pursued a community grant, $10,000 and $5,000 respectively. Doesn't sound like a lot of money, but this is the community rallying together to basically write a grant for mitigation services. We endorsed that, and both of them, for the 2nd year in a row, got a community grant. So they are initiating their own mitigation, and then Lieutenant Dedecker and his team are supporting them in those endeavors. So it's another positive partnership that we've created with the community. The last item there, posting of the position, the accounting technician. This is Cheryl's position. We are posting that position now. So we have a vacancy that we're attempting to fill for Andrea's support. I'm sorry, I keep saying last things. One last thing. The page moved on me. Fire apparatus update. Director Bukowski, you asked me probably 2 years ago about this, and actually there is some headway being made. There is a perceived monopoly in the fire service, fire apparatus manufacturer world. So Senator Hawley from Missouri, Senator Kim from New Jersey are actually seeking information. Interestingly enough, the apparatus manufacturers that we buy from are not part of this. There are three primary that I would say, as a guy on the inside, it certainly looks like a monopoly to me. And they have delayed deliveries, and we felt the repercussions of that. And we're still facing the repercussions of that. So I just wanted to let you know that there are some inquiries there, and I'm hopeful that they can move the needle on this, starting with apparatus, going into protective clothing, and quite frankly, I hope it ends with radios, because every radio that these folks carry over $10,000, which it's an important tool, but it's a ridiculous price. And there's no avenue of opportunity for us to lessen
With
that.
today's technology, that's nuts.
Yeah. So anyway, I'll
Thanks
keep
for-
you
thank
keep you informed on that.
Thank you.
So you want to take this? Or you want me? I'll work with you on
Okay.
this. So Chief Ward is sitting in for Chief Smith, who bailed out on an emergency operations drill. I did this
I wasn't
morning.
invited.
Yeah. So he's at the drill, so I'll go through his slides for him. This just hit social media last week. We are absolutely incredibly proud of what the rural has supported us in achieving here. This is part of the rural's contribution of 2.2 million to the training center. This is a company out of Texas called Lone Star. So this is the new burn building. This was in conjunction with impact fees, because now this reflects the environment that we now face. 4-story buildings, whether it be apartment buildings, hotels, or what have you. Previously, we kind of had a 2-story residential representation down there. I think this is going to challenge our firefighters in the most effective way possible, and going to develop them throughout the course of their career. So again, we want to express our appreciation for the support there. We're happy to take you on a tour. We will have some limitations here coming up pretty quickly because once we burn in it, it is in a contaminated environment. But certainly it's something to see. The rural board has been invited down to see before it was in its finished state, but love to take anybody on a tour. This building, you probably don't recognize this building because I would tell you it's stripped down to just about 4 studs and a roof assembly. This is additional contribution from the rural, but also Congressman Nagoose. This will become our health and wellness center. It'll be staffed by Frontline, who is our mobile health provider. They will basically work out of this facility. This will become their headquarters facility. We'll do the highest level medical physicals, cancer screenings, behavioral health assessments, as well as sleep studies, all through this facility. Anybody that comes to this facility, we'll certainly welcome them as well. It can accommodate their needs, but LFRA will always be the top priority. So we could not build this from ground up. It had to be a remodel. But I think when you do get to see this, and we're looking at July 11th to be the date that we kind of cut the ribbon on both. So we're going to make a pretty big to-do out of that for the rural board, as well as all folks that contributed to both projects. We'd love to have you there for the ribbon cutting. The Knoxbox cores, as you may recall, this was a 2023 grant. It was a joint grant between multi-agencies, Berthoud, Front Range, Windsor, and LFRA. We had the lion's share of this. So if you're not familiar with the Knoxbox, this gives us universal access to all commercial facilities equipped with it. So if we build a new facility within our community, it comes with a Knoxbox. But the inner core is no longer key operated, it's now fob operated. So technology's advanced. So we were awarded a $264,000 grant with a $15,000 match to upgrade all of our cores. We're the first of the 4 entities represented there to complete all the core change outs. So we are basically up to date. Moving forward, we will use the new form of Knoxbox. Community education, hopefully you've seen some of this. I want to give January and Chief Carmesino kudos for this. this is basically a smoke detector installation. I want you to imagine going into a community of mobile homes, which are typically high-risk communities, whether it be elderly or lower income folks. They're typically high risk. They went into a community of just over 110 residents, 39 of which were found to have no smoke detectors in their homes. So I look at this as potentially 39 lives, 39 families that are directly affected by our community education and outreach. So we partnered with Red Cross. So you can see the obviously it's a much larger staff than just our staff there. Red Cross teamed up with us to help do that. So
Was that covered in the paper by chance, chief?
that was not. And bear in mind, if you haven't realized, we did lose Austin. We sent Austin off to Poudre School District, but we have him on a long-term retainer. If he ever has visions of coming back, we gave him a little award the other day, but Austin has done us well, and we're hoping his replacement does the same.
A couple of significant incidents since our last board meeting. Fire on First Street. I think we're gonna be coming back regarding the same incident at some point, but we had a local resident that's also a firefighter that jumped into this before any of us got on scene to help out. So it's pretty significant. So we'll bring that back to you at another point, but quick locate because of his actions and boarding conditions, which made it kind of scary for our folks. So, but they were able to successfully take care of this one, but spent a lot of time on the scene just because of the conditions.
So if I could just chime in, this is one that January is gonna, basically, we will do what is called a fire blitz, basically a 1 block area around this. And we'll do door hangers. So we'll send a crew out to do door hangers. It informs local residents of what happened at the incident, that it was accidental. But these were found, so not damning the resident, but basically saying, if you have a lot of worldly possessions, is the best way to say it, within your residence, okay, just understand it creates difficulty for firefighters. So we kind of explain the incident in the best way that we can, so we lessen the rumors, and then we also advocate checking your smoke detectors. If you don't, we're happy to come out and check those, as well as change them out if we need to,
So I assume this person is gonna get an award for of some kind.
yes.
Glad to hear that.
We'll come back next month. We couldn't make notification to get them here in time to speak, but yes.
Awesome. Glad to hear that.
And the residents were dealing with the fire for over a day.
A day?
A day.
It's like smell smoke, but don't call anybody.
This next one was the one that was in the newspaper, off of Terry Drive, multi-family unit, 8 units that were in there. We did displace everybody because of the amount of fire damage. It's an all-electric utilities complex. So once we killed the power to the building, it lost everybody's ability to stay in there. But we understood the cause and origin very early on, at least with the resident that was living there. So it looked like a very significant fire, but they jumped on it quickly enough. I mean, it was technically a second alarm, but due to the actions of the first few, they knocked the crap out of it anyway.
Chairman, back to you.
Wow. That was indeed quick. No need for executive session, so the only other thing that might come up is if there's other business for board consideration. John, we talked about you a lot while you were outside the room.
I could ask you to make sure that I marked as present.
You are present.
Yes, I am.
Anything you want to talk about?
No.
Mayor?
Nope.
Paul?
No, sir.
Jim?
I'm gonna spoil it, and just a couple quick questions or thoughts, Chief, on when we look at which I like the idea of giving some type of break if they install sprinklers, you know, especially on the red zone, flip side, commercial required, but also within we have to think about capacity. So as you go down that path, let me know so I can make sure and work with the water, you know, utility to make sure we're ready, because when a developer comes in, if you got to put sprinklers in, then you're talking its own 1 inch line plus the capacity issue, and then we have our charges, and maybe we work together and look how we can give a discount on our side, but then also to make sure that development or whatever it is has adequate capacity to serve the needs for those sprinkler systems. It changes that dynamic a little bit, but just, yeah, make sure we're in that loop, in good shape.
Chief Dan, did you want to share anything on that?
Yeah, I don't know how it was in Scottsdale. Did they have fire lines from the water main? Is that how they did the sprinklers?
Yeah, and we were the first city and one of the few cities that require it in all units. And then if you had more than on your remodel, if it was depending on either we did a square foot analysis or others, but if somebody remodeled, then we required them. And so what we would do is just give them a break, give them a credit for their 5 inch line to put a 1 inch line and into the home. So there's different things that we did in that process. But literally only the older homes in the community were ones where that didn't have sprinklers before we approved it, where we had issues. The newer ones, they worked amazing. It saves lives, right? Everything else. So it's a big plus. But we always determine that capacity up front.
So 99% of our residential sprinkler systems are tank and pump. So internal with no public service coming in. If it's gonna be an entire subdivision, maybe we look at something different, maybe we would look at fire lines, but right now we get like, I don't know, 1 or 2 a year residential right now. So, but yeah, it's definitely consideration.
But it's just, yeah, for our planning side, and then
Yep.
maybe we can give a
Yep.
discount because it just makes our lives all easier for different
We have
reasons, so.
2 existing subdivisions where they have to use fire lines. And they were approved 20 or 30 years ago. Everybody else is choosing to do tank.
Yeah, newer construction, we just had separate service for that. Some of the older construction, it came off the new line of the house and it was oversized for that reason. But that difference of cost in a meter from a 5 inch or a 3/4 to 1 is substantial, right? And so that adds, so even though we give them a break, it still may be too cost prohibitive. So maybe we look at that if the intent is for sprinklers, that we find a different mechanism to offer a discount on our side too.
So along those lines, just switching gears for a second, ADUs, supporting ADUs coming in. Obviously, we want to be supportive of that. There have been changes that I think you've put in place as far as there isn't a planning. So there's an aspect of this that's causing us additional work on the other side. So we probably need to review that at the same time. There was, help me out here. Planning was reviewed or
So there's a new state law that went into effect last year, or was passed last year, went into effect this year, whatever it is, but trying to change the requirements to make it easier for people to build ADUs. It's an affordable housing option. One of the things that is in place is that the planning process is waived, so the planning approval. So you don't have to get that anymore. Now they go straight to building permit. So, which created some concerns for us because we want to make sure that these ADUs meet our access requirements. There's a hydrant close enough. The addressing can be an issue, the setback from the lot line, the other structures. And so we're reviewing that right now. And our fee for the review and the inspection is based on valuation. So what we're gonna look at doing is just a flat fee for that review and reducing that. And then the impact fee as well, chief. Yeah, and that would be the lowest, since it's, 700, 800, 900 square feet. That would be our lowest level of impact fee for a single family.
but to your point, we'll work with city side as well. We just, both of us gotta be communicating on that.
Yeah, this state took away some of the, and the parking requirements, all the list, right? So then you have other issues with it, but we can walk through it definitely. And the second one, if I may, just we are in our budget process, so on your side, you could help us along here and get your numbers to us, what you anticipate for next year, so we could build it into the budget. As we move forward, because for me, I wanna know all the revenue side first, see how big the pie is, and then how do we slice it up, so having your chunk of the pie that you'll contribute to, then I'll have a good feel for that when I have all my meetings to walk through all the budgets this year, so.
Yeah, and I think that's where I'd like to have a conversation with you, because that's where I'm a little bit kind of in the middle here is I present our request to you as a board. You tell me what that figure is. And I go from there. So this is where we're playing this juggling match that I need some help from the board in general as to which direction I go. I'm not withholding information, but I present it to the board. The board tells me what that number is. It's the operation that I've been directed to. So I'm happy to take whatever direction you're advocating. So.
Good. Along that same lines, I think it's important recognizing that we have the city manager, mayor, and the councilor on this board when we make decisions here, that there's some method where you guys are going back to city council and telling them what we've decided here. Okay? I'm not always so sure that they understand the decisions we've made here as an authority board. Is that fair, Chief? Would you say it's?
Yeah, I guess the message that we're asking collectively is that you're representing city council. We need to educate the rest of city council as to LFRA's operations and what's going on over here. So I know that adds more time to council meetings, but however that looks, just to make sure that a message is getting back to the other council.
And the reason I think that's important too is sometimes it comes across as being the rural asking for it. It's not really the rural, it's the authority that has approved it and is asking for it. And a distinction needs to be made when talking to council.
Yeah,
So-
I think from my perspective, that's, that's fine, and I'm here, so I can share that with them, and I'll be part of that, presenting the city's budget, and obviously, give me that comfort in that, but I gotta make sure I present a balanced budget and knowing where we're at and all the demands and needs that are out there, it's gotta be balanced. We shut down services, we get a lot of demand right now to reinstitute some of those and just don't have the wherewithal, so those hard decisions need to be made, and I don't wanna make them in a vacuum and not know where we're walking with fireside, so I can make sure that those priorities are key in that equation before I go forward, and then hopefully take council something that they trust and believe that is 100% accurate, and we don't have any comebacks or others. Just we have our additional appropriation and our reappropriation coming up to council, and we spent a good amount of time not doing multiple ones that the city's traditionally done. And so I want to try to put it all into one package and start to refine some of those procedures. So this is one of them. The other thing just on our side was to look at the revenues first. I want to see how big what the pie looks like before we go slicing it. And sometimes we've traditionally just said, well, here's all the demands. And then we try to figure out, do we have money or don't we? And we really need to know what we have up front. So when I know what I have up front, then we know what we potentially obligate over here. But then if the budget is beyond that, then I got to cut somewhere else. And I can't do that late in the game. And that's part of the discussion. Certainly back on sharing with council by all means. And we give them copies of minutes and things like that too. So any decisions we make that have to go back to council for ratification, certainly they're aware of those as well, like the impact fees. Council approved the new impact fees, they had approved that. So those are one side that hits that fiscal.
Yeah, if I could, two different topics. I think the informing council, just keeping them in general up to date on LFRA, your representation on the board, taking that message back to them. Going back to the budget, I think the dilemma and where I feel like I'm in limbo here is at some point I present the budget to the board, and then you tell me, do these numbers work from your perspective with city council and city management represented? Then we figure out what that figure is. Okay, where I feel like I'm in limbo is I don't go defend my budget over on the city side. I defend my budget in front of you. So this has been contested numerous times since I've been here. I answer to this board, and what I can't do is take a budget over there, give multiple bites at the apple, and then come back to the rural and they get one bite at the apple. So that's where I feel as the fire chief, I'm kind of in the middle. How do I play that game? So I'm asking for help, guidance, or whatever you're advocating for.
No, and I totally agree with it. And I think that's one of the reasons it's important to have you on this board, Jim. The mayor and I had a conversation before we even got here on who should be on this board. I said, I think it's important that the city manager be on this board because he's dialed into what city's finances are. And with two representatives plus the city manager on these boards, we should be able to make a decision. It's almost a rubber stamp by the time it gets to the council. I mean, the recommendation that we're making to the chief in here should be something that works. But it doesn't always work that way. We're defending it again after two city councilors and a city manager said go.
So, yeah, I guess I'll
Chief,
explain.
as you well know, I'm not shy, so when
I think you know I'm not shy.
and so we'll enjoy those discussions, but you know, I understand that and I see your frustration and I appreciate that. And we'll try to minimize that burden into the future and so forth. And obviously, this board is the board that takes the action on the budget. And so once you take that action, it is what it is on our side, then we'll have to contend with that accordingly, but we'll sit down and kind of spend a few minutes and figure out how we work through that, because it's hard when maybe we're saying, okay, we got 19 million for fire this year, and it comes in at 22 million, now I got 3 million, I gotta go figure out where to come from, and that means cutting something else because we've already sliced the pie. But if I know walking in that the number's X amount in that ballpark, it makes it a lot easier. So something up front to kind of know what that is, it will help us. And then it's not a big ask for me to go back and deal with all the departments at the city to try to make up for difference because of what we discuss here.
And I think that's the important point is that if I come here and let's just say 23 million, I'm asking for 23 million and you have basically sitting over here at 19, we got to have that discussion, but that discussion is here amongst everybody represented on this board versus what has been done in the past is I got marching orders, I go over and the city manager would pull me into his conference room and there would be a second bite at the apple. And that was very difficult to manage and basically navigate. So that's where I need your help. And I think what you just said, I'm 100% on board. It's let's have the discussion here so the entire board understands what's being asked, what's being put forth, and we meet in the middle.
And you've always been really good at giving us the numbers early enough that we can have those discussions, Jim. So that there shouldn't be any surprises on the 11th hour, so we can have those. So we always appreciate that too.
That'll work. The sooner the better.
Gotcha.
Thanks.
Emily, any comments on this?
On that, no.
Anything else from a legal perspective?
No, I mean, this is the conversation that's been going on for years now, right? And that we've been trying to navigate and hopefully we can get a process together this year that works a little bit better for everybody and doesn't require us to continue. What we've been aiming to do for a long time now.
Okay. Anything out of the legislature we need to be aware of that's changed?
Yes, I was actually checking some of that while the chiefs were talking. It's we're at the last week of the legislative session. One more week. There are some interesting bills that have passed. One that I think this agency will be really interested in is House Bill 1009 called vegetative fuel mitigation. It actually allows fire protection districts to establish mandatory programs of fire mitigation on private property. It's very interesting. We have not had the ability to do that before. It is limited. It can only be required to remove dead vegetation. So you can't say that living tree is too close to your building and you have to cut it down. But if people have a lot of dead or direct brush, they can be required to remove it or face penalties. There's some process for setting that up, some procedures that'll need to be put into place. And I'm just kind of waiting till we get through the session and then I'll be reaching out to clients because I think I'll have a number of folks that want to do this. And if I could do them all at the same time, I can prorate fees and make it very cost effective for everybody. So we'll watch that one. Another bill that passed before it was sadly vetoed was certain modifications to the Colorado Open Records Act, which would have given public agencies greater flexibility in the amount of time they have to respond, as well as the ability to recover more of their costs. But although the bill went through the legislature with huge majorities in both houses and very little opposition, it was vetoed by the governor. And what I heard as recently as yesterday is it is unlikely to survive an LFRA. So we think that one's gone for now.
1182.
1182, let me look at it.
So I believe those numbers are right. 1182 is actually very supportive of what LFRA is already doing. So with the seasonal mitigation crew, it actually gives us the ability. So as insurance companies are attempting to bail, this gives the homeowner the opportunity to basically appeal that process. And with what we're already doing, that gold standard letter, if we go in, we identify or assess a home, we prescribe a mitigation plan, they meet that plan, we can write a letter on their behalf, and basically they potentially could get insurance. So that's an abbreviated version, maybe not those exact words, but the point is we're ahead of that curve, and now we have legislation supporting what we're advocating.
Has that been tested?
Tested
I
from
mean, if you've given somebody the gold standard and insurance company.
I haven't wrote a letter to date.
Okay.
But we are starting the mitigation. We got 10 homes that we have grant funding to basically do defensible space. So that will kind of be the testing grounds to see if it does work. But this has been kind of the selling point, and I've said it very clearly up front, is I can't promise you anything. I don't know who your insurance is through, but what I can say is without fire protection, you're probably not going to get insured.
Yeah.
And we offer fire protection and we write a letter that you have mitigated your home to the best of your ability, take it to them and see what works.
Right. Well, Chair Swanty may have a different idea than I do, but insurance companies don't listen.
But that's the importance of this legislation.
That backs it up.
Yeah, that gives it back home.
Chief, follow-up question on that. Do we have the manpower if we start getting a lot of requests for this?
Yeah, I mean, we just put them in priority orders. That's part of the CWPP, high priority to low priority.
Okay.
So I'll just come back asking for more people. I got jokes
On that issue.
I got jokes.
The other bill that's worth mentioning, I mean, there's a lot that are worth mentioning, and I could go on and on, but one that we're watching really closely this week is Senate Bill 167. This bill is one part of the outcome of the governor's promise last year to find additional funding for the fire service. There were some other things that were in the pipeline that ultimately couldn't be completed this legislative session, and we will continue working on next legislative session. But this bill, if it passes, does two things. One thing it does is it sets up a $50 million revolving loan fund in the Department of Local Affairs, which would allow short-term lines of credit essentially to be made to fire departments to resolve cash flow issues. Cash flow issues are popping up from all sorts of places. One is the exorbitant amount of time it's taking departments to get reimbursed for wildland firefighting. One is the fire apparatus. I've got to put a gigantic prepayment down now for a fire truck I'm not going to see for half a decade, right? Some of it is the uncertainty around federal government grant funding and whether that gets pulled and what happens when you've got a project or firefighters that are funded by grants that all of a sudden evaporate. So that is one part of that bill. The other thing that bill would do is create a preferred mortgage program to provide assistance with down payment funding and preferential mortgage terms for first-time firefighter buyers. So, as you all probably know, the state has no money right now. This bill has passed the Senate, it's in the House, it's sitting in appropriations. And a lot of stuff is sitting in appropriations of waiting to write out the week it died. But because this was part of the governor's promise and his directive letter last year, there's a lot of pressure being put on the legislature to move this bill. So we'll see. And then next year, there is some hope that there may be a couple of enterprise funds established to provide fee-based, a fee-based source of revenue to fund certain types of programs throughout the state.
Thank you, Emma.
Of course.
Any other business? Okay, hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you. Before us, Mayor.
Oh, I am.